didn't see you there, but I heard you might come by to learn a little bit about starting garden starts from seed. So if you want to do that with me, you would need some coco coir, a nice variety of seeds such as cucumbers, squash, tomatoes, tomatillos, some pots such as these, or you could use something a little more like this, which looks high-tech but it's just little pots. Some seed start fertilizer, which this one has the numbers 463, which just refers to the mineral content in it, so it's like nitrogen, phosphorus, and calcium. And that one is specifically for seed starts because seeds are kind of cool that they have a different nutrient need than just regular plants, because when seeds are born into this life, they contain all the nutrients they need to start, which we'll talk about later. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is grab a bucket, and you might look at this and be like, what is this coco coir for? If you've ever used sphagnum moss, it's like a very similar medium. It might look tiny, which is why we're going to start now. But it's made out of the husk from coconuts, and it retains like 7 times its weight in moisture, which is great for seedlings. Seedlings are like super sensitive to moisture, and if they're not evenly moist, they'll just dry up and die. So now that that's finally open, there's like a variety of coconut coir you can buy, and some of it will say just cover it with water until moist. And this one actually says to add about 2 liters to the whole thing, and it looks like this. And it actually comes with its own bag, but the bag has a hole in it, so which is like supposed to be to prevent from water overflow. I'm not going to use it. So 1. We'll hack it up a little bit. It's definitely suggested to break this up a little bit. Okay, and here is the 2nd liter of water about. And so this is going to be the primary medium for our seedlings, which is like the dirt, essentially. We're just creating our own more water retentive dirt. Great. So that's going to take about 10 minutes to really fluff up and absorb all the water. And in the meantime, we can talk about different seeds that are good to start in your house versus not. Some stuff that's really important to either start from seed or grab a start already is going to be tomatillos, tomatoes, your peppers, and your eggplants. And if you grab your seed packets, on the back they'll say when to sow outside or when to sow inside. And sometimes I live life on the edge and I just start some seeds that say they would prefer to be started outside, because things like spinach or lettuce, I just have kind of a hard time getting them to be like large enough to really hold their own in the elements. And so for that, I'm going to start some things like romaine lettuce and spinach, like I said. And then another thing that is a little bit like contentious in the plant world is whether or not it's better to start cucumbers from seed and squashes, or like start them from seed in your home and then transplant them, or to just put them in the dirt directly, because they can be kind of sensitive to root disturbances. So I have these little things called mouse melon or Mexican gherkins, and I just love them. But they're so small and delicate that I'm going to try to start them inside in a compostable container. So these are actually also coco coir. You might be like, wow, this lady is really into coco coir, but it's because I am. But it's because they're so environmentally friendly, whereas like people for a really long time were using sphagnum moss, which is cool, and like very fluffy, very light, very great for like root development, but it's impossible to get it out of the earth without just like causing catastrophic destruction because it takes like 10,000 years to grow into peat bogs. Whereas coconut coir is entirely renewable and people don't usually use like the outside husk of coconut anyways. So yeah, it's just really good. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and our cocoa coir is all fluffed up. It should just look just like this. There might be more water in the bottom, which is not the end of the world. If it's drier than this though, you should add a little bit more water. And now we're gonna add the fertilizer. And this fertilizer says to take 1 teaspoon per plant. And I have 11 plants that I want to be planting today. So that's 11 teaspoons. Or you can just put a handful or 2, which is the more common measurement I've seen. So I'm gonna take it. And the reason you wear a glove is because this stuff stinks. It smells so bad. So don't try to not put your face anywhere near it. So we'll just do a little more for extra measure. You don't want to put too much fertilizer in because it can cause, it can burn your seedlings. Try not to put it in, just because they'll be too high of a nutrient content. So you'll just mix it around. It's a good time to use all those homemade masks we're making. Because of the virus. Okay, so once it's mixed around, you can just do it with your hand. Good to go. And so this is kind of the fun part. Everybody seems to like putting seeds in pots, and then you get to watch them grow. I have a little very advanced tool that I use. I present to you the chopstick. So most seedling depth that you want to plant is going to be anywhere from, okay, it'll say 1/8 inch, which basically means just like plop it on top and maybe mush it around a little bit, but it'll be about from 1/4 to 1 inch. And I made little marks just with my scissors on this. I don't think you can probably see. Can you see? But it's there. And so that is how I know how far I'm planting seeds in. So I've also labeled my pots with the name and yesterday's date, March 26th. And that's because I used to not label my seeds, and it was like a fun game of like, oh, I wonder what that is, but labeling them does make me feel more in control of the situation, which in general is a good thing. So yeah, you just take your gloved hand. Your hand doesn't have to be gloved, but mine is. And you throw it in there, and you want to make sure it's like pretty loose, but you can just like shake it and it'll kind of settle into its natural alignment. But you want it loose so that there's like a lot of room for the seeds to grow the roots out of into the soil. I hope that makes sense. So now that that's done, we'll just put that down there. And because I already labeled all my pots, I want to make sure that I put the right seeds in them. And some of the seeds that I'm going to plant are so small that you almost can't see them. So maybe I'll, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so I have 2 containers of squash. And I think that this year I'm going to do Black Beauty zucchini. Most of these seeds that I got for free when I was working at a plant nursery in North Seattle. So that's cool. But you can just order them online. Usually you can go to the store, but we aren't allowed to leave our houses right now, so I guess ordering would be the best option, or honestly neighbors, or just like your Facebook groups and stuff, because one packet of seed usually costs like $2.50, $3, and there's just too many to plant for, unless you're feeding like a family of 12, then you might use a whole seed packet in a couple years, but, or if you're doing like mass production, you know, but most at-home gardeners don't need a whole seed packet. And another thing to be a bit mindful of is that these seeds, they'll say when they're packed on the bottom, and these are packed for 2016, and sometimes seed lives vary, and so 2016 is 4 years, so that's probably pushing it on seed life. I used these seeds last year, so I know that they germinated last year, but if for some reason your seeds don't work and they're kind of old, that's probably why. And they'll say how to plant them on the back. This says plant 3 seeds per mound, and this is one of those experiments because it is in it's the Cucurbidaceae family, which is all your cucumbers and squashes, and they do have a bit tender roots to being disturbed. But we're gonna take 3 seeds, and then I have my trusty chopstick, and I'll just make a hole to 3 inches just because there's 3 of them. So I'll put them in there, squish them down, send them my love, good luck on your journey, and then we're going to try to not mix up the ones that we've planted and the ones that we've not planted. So we'll start over here. And I have 2 things of squashes because I would like to have like nice large squash plants before May. The end of May, June is when you're supposed to plant them. So I'm just going to do my second one really fast. 1 inch. And then just to go through the plants that I'm planting for my garden right now, well really it's DNDA's garden, but the garden that I will be gardening in, I'm doing these zucchini squash. I've got 2 different types of tomatoes that grow really well here. Seattle's Best, we're in Seattle, and Sun Gold, which unfortunately is owned by Monsanto, but they're so good. They taste like candy. It's hard not to grow them, but I probably will not buy them again after after this year, or whenever I use them. Okay, with that, we're done. We're done with this step, which is actually, this is probably the easiest thing because the next like 6 to 15 days you have to maintain their constant moisture level around their seed, or else they like get a little bit shriveled up. They are kind of like babies where they're picky, but they can't scream at you, so they just die. Yeah, so I'm going to show you, there are a couple things that you can do with these. One of them is just put them on a very truly sunny window, and this, I have great light in my apartment, so if I didn't have the setup that I do, I would probably put them right here, even though it would be better if they were a westward or a southward facing, because seedlings just need so much light to like grow into the strong baby plants that they would like to become. Otherwise they get a little spindly and weak and kind of sad, and whenever you see a plant's leaves that are like very droopy, that's not a good sign. So luckily I found I have a plant grow light that I've totally had for years and didn't realize it, because it's just an aquarium light. It's anything that's full spectrum will work. So I'm going to take you over to my seed starting setup in 1 second. Transition. So this is my little setup. This mat right here is a seedling warmer mat, because seedlings actually, they germinate, which is when they put their little roots out to grow into being adult plants, and that is triggered by temperature more than anything. And so, well actually sorry, it's triggered by water levels in the soil, because having the water makes the reactions in the seed happen to where they start producing. It's cellular biology, trust me. And so, but the heat helps speed those reactions up. And so this is a seedling mat, and then this is my full spectrum aquarium light and it's essentially a grow light, and that's not necessary for starting seeds, but once the seeds poke out, they get these 2 little leaves, and they're called cotyledons, and they have all the essential nutrients to like help get the plant to the next level, and those photosynthesize, so they need light. And so full spectrum light, awesome. Windowsill, just fine too. And you definitely don't need a seed warmer, it just helps with germination rates. And then I also have, this is me propagating all of my houseplants, which is great for that. So yeah, we'll just set them up here. I'm a little bit concerned that I don't have like a bottom to put all of these in, so we're gonna experiment to see how they do. Hopefully they don't get too much of a soggy bottom. Okay, so upon a little more thought, I decided to put them back in the bin so that watering doesn't create a mess. So if you are putting your plants on windowsills, please make sure to have a completely waterproof bottom in between, like a barrier between the plants and the sill. So the last step really for starting your seeds for now is just to give them a little extra water. The coconut coir should have a lot of water retention in it already, but this is just so that they kind of settle in to the spot that they're going to be. And then also, if you have one, these sprayers are really nice because you can wake up every morning, especially we're all quarantined right now, what else are you going to do? And you can just soak them and make sure that they stay real damp, because like I said, that is like the most, if your seedlings dry out, they just immediately die. And I've probably one of the biggest struggles of gardening, at least for me and a couple other people I know. So yeah, we're just gonna give them a little drinky poo, and that should be that. Ta-da! Okay, if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. And if you have any topics that you want in particularly covered, I think I'm going to focus mostly on gardening, especially because we're in really uncertain times, and historically during times of trouble, Americans producing food at home has been a really valuable asset for the country. So we're going to focus on that, but if you have a really burning interest in indoor houseplants and propagation and seed starting for native stuff, oh sorry, not native stuff, you could do native stuff, but I meant more like rare, unique stuff, I could talk about that. But stay tuned, hopefully I'll have a new video out like tomorrow. Okay, thanks. Bye.